Take everything you know about turn-based RPGs and sprinkle in a whole handful of League of Legends, and you've got yourself the start of something pretty incredible. Hey there friends, it's Kodiak here, and after just a few hours, I wanted to share my first impressions of Ruined King, a League of Legends story. Alright, so look here, I don't have 50 plus hours with this game, and I'm definitely not ready to review it, but when developers just drop titles out of nowhere, you play the hand you're dealt. For anyone unaware, Ruined King, a League of Legends story is a turn-based action-adventure game. If you're familiar with Darkest Dungeon, you'll see a lot of similarities in the combat, but Riot Forged and Airship Syndicate have managed to put their own spin on a lot of things and create completely new and unique experiences. The first myth I want to dispel right now is that you have to be a huge League of Legends fan to appreciate this game. You absolutely don't, and I'd argue this is the one way for fans to actually jump into that universe for the very first time. I've said it in some of my previous videos involving Riot, but they are building a world the likes of which we haven't seen since Azeroth and World of Warcraft. And if you want to come at me about that, just check out the Runeterra website, read some of the lore, and play around with the interactive map. You will be blown away. Ruined King follows the story of a few different characters from the League universe. You start off by playing Miss Fortune, establish the first few elements of the story, and learn about the basics of the game. During those first few hours, you get a small taste of how the adventure aspects of the title will go. You have complete control over your character. You get to run around, scavenge for items, and almost Pokemon style engage in combat when you run up on some enemies. I was actually pretty floored by how much freedom they actually give the player. Bilgewater, where the first leg of the journey starts, is a place no one has really gotten to explore, so to be able to walk around, talk to some NPCs, and immerse yourself in that world, it's pretty nuts. I want to take a quick second to remind everyone watching that Riot is developing an MMORPG. It's a project in its infancy, but with Mark Yeater, former head of League, and Greg Street, formerly of World of Warcraft fame, at the helm, I think it's safe to say Ruined King is just the start of a more immersive jaunt into the world of Runeterra. But I digress. Ruined King is a story game, handcrafted to take players on a carefully tailored adventure. It's not a roguelite, it's not an open world, but there's enough freedom to explore that you do still feel like you're on a journey. So far, I've had the chance to play as Miss Fortune, the pirate captain of Bilgewater, Alawi, the Kraken priestess, and Braum, the heart of the Freljord. Each character is wonderfully brought to life in a number of different ways, in the 3D overworld, during dialogue-based cutscenes, and during combat. There are also a number of fully animated cutscenes that really dive into the lore of the game, which revolves around Viego, the Shadow Isles, and the Black Mist. Again, if you don't know anything about this, sure, you'll be at a slight disadvantage, but the game brings you up to speed from the ground floor. Understanding the adventure aspect to the game is really only one piece of the puzzle. Combat is a huge aspect of Ruined King, and like I alluded to before, it takes a lot of cues from other turn-based games, but puts a fresh twist on the ideas. Combat starts by engaging an enemy that's wandering around in the overworld. You can actually use something called a dungeon ability, unique to each hero, and if you hit the enemy before they hit you, you go into combat with an advantage. It's a neat way to make the entire entry into combat interesting without being overly tedious. Once combat starts, it's time for the fighting. Each hero has access to two different sets of abilities. Instant abilities, which trigger immediately. They're usually less flashy, but if you need to deal damage, throw up a buff, apply a status effect, or heal, that's how you do it. Lane abilities happen in two different parts. First, you select the ability. These are often more powerful and have more compound function. Once you do that, you get to decide what lane you want to attack from. The top lane allows you to use the ability faster, but is weaker. The middle lane is balanced and follows the normal cadence of the fight. And the bottom lane is the power lane. The ability deals more damage, but is slower. It's an interesting puzzle, and utilizing the timeline on the bottom of a screen, you can really plan out what moves to use when. There are additional factors at play as well, such as hazards. I haven't experienced too many of these yet, but basically, if any of your heroes start their turn within the hazard window, they take the effect of that hazard. The same could be said about wildcards, which are buff windows within combat. Same thing, if your heroes, or the enemies in this case, start a turn inside that window, they get the wildcard buff. It really took me a second to wrap my head around all of the different ideas presented in combat, but once it clicked, I found it pretty fun. One thing I will say, the game doesn't hold your hand explaining how every aspect of combat works, especially the status effects. That's where Inspect mode comes into play. Because combat is turn-based, the developers added a more enhanced information mode that allows you to inspect your heroes and the enemies you're fighting. This is where you can learn about the different buffs, debuffs, status effects, anything and everything going on in combat. I honestly don't like that I can't get all the information on one screen, but by moving information to a secondary system, you do get a cleaner combat user interface. The real challenge in combat is just tracking all of the things going on, and popping in and out of that inspect mode definitely cheapens the experience. After a while, I did get better at keeping tabs on everything and got more used to the little icons on the screen, but this is definitely going to be a challenge for some players. All in all, I'm really into the combat. Abilities are all tailor-made for the heroes, and each has a beautiful custom animation, exactly what I'd expect from a studio with Riot's backing. Things are polished, at least as far as I can tell right now, but only more time with the game will determine if that holds true throughout the rest of the experience. The last thing I want to touch on, for now at least, are the RPG elements of the game. I've only just scratched the surface, but honestly, things are playing out more like a traditional RPG than I thought. Your characters will earn gold, experience, special currencies, and items during combat, and just like any other RPG, you can go into your inventory and equip the best gear. I would imagine your bags are going to fill up pretty quickly, as I was getting a decent amount of loot, but it's hard to say at this point. When your heroes level up, you also get access to a skill upgrade system. I really like where the game is going with this. As you level up, you can put points to enhance those certain skills, and you have to pick between different nodes, and those nodes change the functionality of the abilities they're tied to. It's a great system, one that I can see working well throughout the entirety of the game. It's a little too basic to lend itself to traditional builds, but I'll reserve final judgment on that for now. There's also other things, like fishing in the game, a pleasant surprise. I definitely wasn't expecting that and actually enjoyed the break from the running around and fighting. All the loot and the fish you find feed other systems in the game, which all in turn allow you to get more loot. And yeah, all of those pieces come together nicely. Keep in mind, I'm only about 5 hours into the game right now, so there's a good chance there's a lot more to discover here. When all is said and done, so far, I'm really enjoying my time with Ruined King. This is a game I was actually starting to think would never come out, but so far, things are solid. It's a relatively cheap game at just $30, but I already feel like the experience matches the price tag. There are few games in the genre that also blend in so many adventure elements, and I think that adds to the overall depth of the Ruined King, that will make it a standout game when I get enough time to finally review the title. We do have a lot going on with the channel at the moment, but I am chipping away at the game. I've been looking forward to Ruined King for quite some time, so if you want to follow along with our adventures, you know what to do. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and keep it right here for more great content. We've also got a Discord. We've got a great community of around 7,000 members spread across dozens of great games, so check out that link below and join today. Finally, if you like everything we're doing here on the channel and you want to support us even more, you can now do so by becoming a member. For just a couple bucks, you're helping evolve the channel and take our community to that next level. Check out the join button below to learn more. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.